Sparta. The very name conjures images of warriors, of discipline, of fearless resolve. But behind the myth lies a more complex and deeply human story. Long before hoplites and heroic last stands, the land that would become Sparta was home to something else entirely. In the southeastern Peloponnese lies the region of Laconia, a wide, fertile valley flanked by rugged mountains and fed by the Eurotas River. As early as the 14th century BCE, this area hosted a Mycenaean palace culture. Archaeological discoveries show linear B tablets, vibrant frescoes, and stone structures that belonged to a world long gone, one that fell apart during the Great Collapse of the Bronze Age around 1200 BCE. What followed was a time of darkness, uncertainty, and change. Into this vacuum came a new people, the Dorians. Ancient sources describe them as descendants of Heracles, conquerors who spread through the Peloponnese in waves, pushing aside the remnants of Mycenaean society. Whether myth or memory, these new settlers eventually built what we now know as Sparta. Rather than a single moment of foundation, Sparta formed through the merging of 4 neighboring villages along the Eurotas River: Pitana, Limnae, Messoa, and Cynosura. Its location was strategic, a fertile valley protected by mountains, able to sustain agriculture and defend itself from rivals. The land gave Sparta food, and food gave Sparta strength. By the 9th century BCE, this early Spartan society was beginning to coalesce. The Dorian newcomers established themselves as the ruling elite. Those who lived in the region before were pushed into lower classes or enslaved entirely. Some became perioikoi, free but without political rights. Others became helots, an enslaved population tied to the land, forced to farm and deliver produce to their Spartan overlords. This system allowed Spartan men to step away from labor and focus on one thing: war. From a young age, boys were trained to endure hardship, to obey without hesitation, and to fight without fear. The agoge, Sparta's harsh educational system, began at age 7. Boys were taken from their families and raised in barracks, taught to steal, to suffer, and to survive. Success was measured not by comfort, but by pain endured without complaint. They went barefoot. They wore a single tunic year-round. They were underfed on purpose. If they stole food and were caught, the punishment wasn't for the theft, it was for being caught. One famous story tells of a boy who hid a stolen fox under his tunic. Rather than reveal his crime, he let the fox tear into his flesh and died without making a sound. Whether true or not, stories like this shaped the Spartan identity. Upon reaching adulthood, Spartan men joined communal messes known as syssitia. Here, they ate together daily, regardless of wealth. Everyone contributed food from their land allotments, and no one dined in private. This communal life reinforced discipline and surveillance. No weakness could hide in the open. Spartan society revolved around this military ethos. The citizen body was small, elite, and intensely regulated. Land was divided into equal lots, farmed by helots. Manual labor and trade were considered beneath Spartans, left to the perioikoi and foreigners. Gold and silver coinage was banned. Wealth, in theory, was irrelevant. Only courage, obedience, and endurance mattered. Women in Sparta lived very differently from those in other Greek cities. They were educated, physically trained, and outspoken. With men away in barracks or at war, women managed estates, and bore the responsibility of raising strong sons. They moved freely in public, wore minimal clothing by Greek standards, and were known for their sharp tongues. One saying famously attributed to a Spartan mother, "Return with your shield, or on it." All of this discipline, this structure, had a purpose: control. The Helots vastly outnumbered the Spartans, sometimes 7-1. Rebellion was always a threat. The entire Spartan state was, in many ways, a permanent army occupation, not over foreign lands, but over its own population. The Spartans had to be united, harsh, and vigilant. If the Helots rose, they could not afford to lose. To maintain their dominance, Sparta became increasingly rigid. The constitution, attributed to the semi-mythical lawgiver Lycurgus, was said to have been handed down by the Delphic oracle. It banned written laws and insisted that customs be preserved through oral tradition and habit. Whether Lycurgus truly existed or not, his legacy was real. Spartans believed in him, and belief shaped behavior. The governing structure combined monarchy, oligarchy, and limited democracy. 2 kings ruled, one from each royal family. A council of elders, the Gerousia, guided them, consisting of men over 60, elected for life. 5 ephors, elected annually, held immense power and could even put kings on trial. All male citizens over 30 could vote in the assembly, though debate was minimal. This unusual political balance created stability. Sparta avoided tyrants, coups, and internal revolutions for centuries. The cost, however, was stagnation. As the Greek world changed, as trade, art, and philosophy flourished elsewhere, Sparta remained focused on survival, simplicity, and war. But early Sparta wasn't always so austere. Before it became the militarized machine of legend, it had a vibrant culture. In the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, Sparta produced poetry, music, and fine art. Spartan pottery has been found as far away as Libya and Samos. Ivory carvings and ceremonial items show a people once deeply engaged with the wider Greek world. Poets like Alcman composed hymns of remarkable beauty. Tyrtaeus, a martial poet, urged Spartans to stand firm in battle and die for their city. His verses were recited to soldiers as moral instruction. One fragment reads, "Here is courage, mankind's finest possession. It is a good thing when a man stands in the front ranks, steadfast. Such poetry reveals a transformation." Sparta was becoming a society where war was not just necessary, it was sacred. The values of discipline, sacrifice, and silence were not just admired, they were required. And over time, the rigid system we now associate with Sparta hardened into place. This system reached maturity in the 7th and 6th centuries as Sparta expanded its territory through conquest. The most significant of these was Messenia, a neighboring region of rich farmland. The First Messenian War, around 743 BC, resulted in the subjugation of an entire population. The Messenians were reduced to helot status and forced to farm for their conquerors. The conquest of Messenia doubled Sparta, land and labor force, but also its internal threat. These newly enslaved helots resisted fiercely. A second Messenian War erupted in the 7th century, and though Sparta ultimately won, the cost was high. It became clear that only a society fully committed to militarism could hold such a volatile system together. From that point forward, Sparta was no longer just a city-state. It was a camp, a barracks with temples. Every element of life served the same end: to maintain dominance through force. Boys trained, women birthed warriors, elders judged, helots labored, and all Spartans watched. That's how Sparta survived. But it's not how it would last.